want to start off this video by saying that I'm privileged because I have a roof over my head, I'm living in a nice apartment in a safe environment, and this video won't be about the surface of things. I want to go a little bit deeper, and by the end I want to introduce my friend Natasha from Kharkiv, Ukraine to you. So, I have no room of my own simply because I'm living together with my 5-year-old son and my son's father, and we're basically sharing each room with each other. And my life circumstances are pretty difficult at the moment, to say the least, and there's the possibility that I will have to downsize soon and maybe to move into a smaller apartment. And just to give you a little bit of context. So ever since I can remember, it was extremely important for me to have my own room, to have my safe space where I could just close the door, not be disturbed, and have my privacy. My mother, she grew up in the Soviet Union, and there it was just common for families to share a room together. There was nothing out of the ordinary. But I grew up privileged. I grew up in the GDR in East Berlin, almost like an only child because my sister is 17 years older than me and she moved out when I was very little. So I had my own room right from the start. When I became a mother, I learned pretty quickly that everything I was used to, like a room of my own, time for myself, for my creativity and self-actualization, that it wasn't a given anymore. I realized that it was just a very comfortable life I had so far and that I just had taken for granted. I would say that I grew into my new life circumstances, and with a child you just share everything, you like starting with your body and your essential energy. But there came a point, like maybe after 4 years, when I felt that something really needed to change. I really needed to find strategies and ways to make space for myself and my creativity again. Because my creativity is an extremely important part of my identity and my whole healing process. And to be honest with you, I neglected my creativity. Pretty much. I stopped making music, I stopped writing, I stopped drawing, stopped making videos pretty much. Just because I didn't have the time and the energy anymore. Because life, had become more about surviving than thriving. There's this series on Netflix I like very much. It's called Nola Darling. And Nola lives in this big Fort Greene apartment in Brooklyn, New York, where she has lots of space for art and where she can do whatever she wants, basically. And I really love to watch this series as an escape, but it is so far away from my own reality right now. When you have a child and you don't have a lot of money, you might not be able to afford like an apartment with so many rooms, and you will have to share your space. My son is 5 years old. He's extremely creative and productive. And his creations and artworks, they are just everywhere. And I haven't really found a system to deal with that yet, because everything is just so precious that it's really hard to throw any of it away. And there is this trend called minimalism, and how can you live like a minimalist when you have a child that is a maximalist? And if you don't have a room of your own, that would really interest me. Maybe somebody has some advice for me. I would really appreciate it. I still found a way to create space for my creativity without having a room of my own, and it consists of 3 keys: containers, nature, and gratitude. So I got myself some containers like little safe spaces for my equipment and art utensils. And I even created a little spot in the living room that is somewhat secluded, I would say. And I think containment is a very important topic in regards to creating your safe, creative space, because sometimes we don't have a lot of power over the place that surrounds us, but we can create containers within it, like little vessels that hold room for us and our creativity. And that's a way that helps me to regulate my emotions, because I'm making room for them on a physical level and on an energetic level. My tools have a home, they have appreciation, they don't just fly around like clutter anymore. And I think structure is so important for spirituality and creativity. You know, as long as there's enough room for a little chaos, of course, because nothing scares me more than like a blank space with no life in it. There has to be there has to be a little mess somewhere, in my opinion. And you can create containers within space, but you also can create them within time. So I basically try to find little time pockets, be it the ride with my train to work or the evening hours when my son is asleep. And instead of filling them with mindless consuming, like doom scrolling, for example, I try to use them for my creativity as much as I can. And mostly I will write something or film something, because that's the most easy and flexible form of creative expression for me right now. If I can, and it doesn't put too much pressure on me, I try to plan my time with a calendar. But since everything in my life is pretty scheduled already, I just mostly like to leave some room for freedom and spontaneity here. So containment for me is essentially about giving your creativity a home. And that's where I learn most from nature. Where there are no walls, basically. And still everything has its place, its identity. Everything has a home. And I want to have that within myself too. When I close my eyes, I want to feel safe. I want to feel at home in my own nature. I want to be my own container, so to speak, because I know that the only certainty we have is change. And no room with furniture is forever. And when everything gets too much for me, I go into nature or work on, our balcony, which I'm extremely grateful for, by the way. I don't take it for granted. I didn't have a balcony for many, many years, actually, most of my life. And this brings me to the third key that helps me to make space for my creativity, which is gratitude. I could go on and complain about everything I'm lacking and that others have and I don't have, but when I look at my friend Natasha, everything gets put into perspective. 2 years ago, she had to flee from Kharkiv, Ukraine with her husband, and they have been living with my parents in a small apartment since then. And everything was strange and unfamiliar for them. They didn't know my parents, and Natasha has never been anywhere else than in Ukraine in her whole life. And I asked her how she managed to create a safe space for herself and for creativity in a totally new and unfamiliar environment, and with her ongoing worries about her hometown and her country. And here's what she told me.
А когда мы сюда приехали, здесь все было по-другому. Нам здесь все понравилось. Здесь были очень красивые, не были, они есть, красивые домики, красивая природа. Но самое главное, здесь оказались очень хорошие, добрые люди, которые нам помогали. И вы себе представить не можете, как для меня было трогательно, когда совершенно незнакомые люди, которых я никогда в жизни не видела, присылали мне открытки с поздравлением, какие-то подарочки маленькие. И это было все настолько приятно и действительно успокаивало тогда. Для того, чтобы попытка, что ли, внутренне психологически успокоиться, я дома очень любила заниматься огородом. Выращивать растения, помидорчики, огурчики и все, что можно вырастить в огороде. Это был непростой труд, но он мне всегда приносил успокоение. И я здесь решила, что я не забуду это и буду продолжать выращивать то, что, заниматься растениями по мере сил и возможностей. И я до сих пор люблю выходить в наш маленький садик, поковыряться там в земле, позаниматься с цветами, поговорить с этими цветочками и внутренне успокоиться. И это всегда до сих пор это остается. Все.
When I look at Natasha, she reminds me of what really matters in life: friendship and family. And as long as we have that, even if we have to be our own friend and family because we're alone, but as long as we have that, and as long as we can appreciate and be grateful for what we have, we not only have a home, we are a home for ourselves and for others. We have a space where healing can take place and where we can slowly transition from surviving to thriving again. Our creative expression can take on so many forms, not only art and music. It is the way we mold and shape the world around and within us. It is about the energy we give and receive. Creativity is the counterpart to destruction, and we all have it within us. It just needs a home. Thank you so much to everyone who watched until the end. This is not a given in this fast-paced world, so I really appreciate you. And I hope this video could help you, like it helped me, to remind you of what's really important for you and to remind you of the abundance within you. And yeah, if you want to stay in touch, consider subscribing and reaching out to me in the comments. And I hope to see you soon. And I'm sending you lots of hugs. Bye bye.